Hello everyone. Today we are going to look at the multiplying and dividing integers notes. So please make sure you have that open and ready on your screen before you watch this video. So your multiplying and dividing integers notes are very short and straight to the point, but they should help you to complete the assignments in this lesson. As you can see, here are the rules for multiplying integers. Rule number 1, if the integers have the same signs, then the product will be positive. So if I have two positive numbers multiplied together, I'm going to get a positive number. If I have two negative numbers multiplied together, I'm going to still get a positive number because when you multiply two negatives together, you get a positive. So that means that 2 times 2 is going to give me 4, but also negative 2 times negative 2 will give me 4. For the second rule, if the integers have different signs, then the product will be negative. So anytime the signs are different, you're always going to have a negative answer because a negative times a positive is always going to be a negative. And it doesn't matter what order they come in because in multiplication, the order is not important. Just the value or negative or positive status of the number is important. With that clear, we're going to move on to the sample problems so that you all have a chance to practice this idea. Okay, so if I have 14 times 2, those are both positive numbers, so I know that my answer is going to be positive. Whenever my two numbers have the same sign, my answer stays positive. So 14 times 2 is just going to be 28. Letter B, I have negative 10 times negative 4. Both of my numbers are negative, so my answer is going to be positive. So 10 times 4 is 40. Okay. Same thing here with letter C. I have two negative numbers being multiplied together, so my answer is going to be positive. So I have 13 times 13, right? And that is going to give me 3 times 3, which is 9, 3 times 1, which is 3. Then I have 1 times 3, which is 3, and 1 times 1, which is 1. When I add that together, I'm going to get 169. Okay, just to show you, you don't necessarily have to know any of these answers, A, B, or C off the top of your head. Always make sure you work through your process of how to multiply in case you need to, right? So set it up, make sure you indent for the tens. All right, same thing we're going to do for 12 times 21. Right, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1 is 1. I'm going to indent for my tens. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2. I'm going to add it up, and I'm going to get 252. And that's going to be my answer because both of my numbers are positive. So I'm just multiplying them together to get 252. All right, in my second set of sample problems, I'm still multiplying. In letter A, I have one negative number and one positive number. So what's my answer going to be, negative or positive? That's right, your answer is always going to be negative when you have at least one negative number, when you have one negative number multiplied to one positive number, right? So if you have a negative and a positive, your answer is always going to be negative. So in this case, we are doing 13 times 14. All right, so we have 4 times 3, which is 12. I'm going to carry that 1. 4 times 1 is 4, plus the 1 is going to give me 5. I'm going to indent for my tens. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. And we add it up together to get 182. So your answer should be negative 182. Positive 18 times a negative 10. I have one positive number, one negative number. That means my answer is going to be negative. So I should have negative 180 as my answer, because whenever I multiply anything by 10, I'm just adding a 0 onto the back of it. Letter C, again, I have one negative number times one positive number, so my answer is going to be negative, right? And so I'm going to do 22 times 7, which is 7 times 2 is 14. I'm going to carry that 1. Do 7 times 2 is 14 again and add that 1. So 154. So my answer for letter C is negative 154. For part D, again, I have one positive number, one negative number, so my answer will be negative. I have 100 times negative 10. It's going to give me negative 1,000. Okay. We have done the rules and practice for multiplying. We're going to move on to dividing. Let me clear my screen of these drawings. Okay. So here are the rules for dividing your integers. Right? Your rules for dividing are going to be very similar to your rules for multiplying. If the numbers or the integers that I am dividing have the same sign, my answer will be positive, right? So if I'm dividing two positive numbers, my answer will always be positive. If I'm dividing two negative numbers, my answer will always be positive, right? So negative 4 divided by negative 2 is going to give me a positive 2, right? And 4 divided by 2 is also going to give me a positive 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2. And negative 4 divided by negative 2 is also 2. My second rule for dividing integers says that if the signs are different, my answer will always be negative. If the signs are different, my answer will always be negative. So if I have negative 4 divided by a positive 2, my answer is going to be negative 2. If I have positive 4 divided by a negative 2, my answer is negative 2. So if my signs are different, my division answer will always be negative. If my signs are the same, my division answer will always be positive. That's the exact same rule for multiplication. Let's try these sample problems down here. So sample problem set number 3A through D. We're just going to do the regular division. We're dividing 234 by 2. Those are both positive numbers, so my answer is going to be positive. I know that already. Okay. 2 goes into 234, right? Well, we don't need to go into that whole number. We just need to go as far as 2. 2 goes into 2 once. 2 times 2 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. So I need to bring down my next number, which is 3. 2 goes into 3 one time. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. And now I need to bring down my 4. All right, so now 2 goes into 14 7 times, and this is my answer, 117. For letter B, we are dividing two negative numbers, so my answer is going to be positive. So we're going to do 4 into 1,000. Okay, so 4 doesn't go into 1, but 4 goes into 10. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 4 times 2 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. I'm going to bring down my next number, which is a 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times minus 20 is 0. My next number is also a 0. And 4 goes into 0 0 times. So my answer is 250. For letter C, I have two negative numbers dividing each other. So that means my answer is going to be positive. I'm going to do 14 into 196. How many times does 14 go into 19? It goes in one time. 19 minus 14 is 5. I'm going to bring down my 6. And then 14 goes into 56 4 times. So my answer is 14. Notice here that I have not used any of the negatives to do either B or C. Why? Because since the numbers are both negatives and my answer is going to be positive anyway, I don't need to write them in. Letter D also says that I'm dividing a negative number by another negative number, so my answer I know is going to be positive. So I'm going to do 5 into 225. 5 goes into 22 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 22 minus 20 is 2, and then I'm going to bring down my next number, which is a 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times, so the answer is 45. We're going to look at the next problem set. Problem set 4, A through D. We are going to be working again still with division, right? And this time we're mixing it up. So we're dividing a negative number by a positive number. When we divide a negative number by a positive number, what is the answer going to be? Is it going to be negative or positive? That is correct. The answer is going to be negative. So we're going to do 9 into negative 432. I've put my negative there to remind me that I'm going to need my negative in my answer. 9 goes into 43. How many times? 9 goes into 43 4 times. 9 times 4 is 36. 43 minus 36 is going to give me 7. I'm going to bring down my next number, which is a 2. How many times does 9 go into 72? It goes in 8 times. So my answer is negative 48. For letter B, I am dividing a positive number by a negative number. The signs do not match. That means my answer will be negative. Okay, so I am doing 45 into 2025. Okay, so we're going to do how many times does 45 go into 202? Okay, so 45 is going to go into 202 about 4 times. We're going to check it by doing it over here. What's 45 times 4? Okay, I am not going to get any closer to 202 than 180. So it definitely goes in 4 times. 202 minus 180 is going to give me 22. I'm going to bring down the 5. So how many times is 45 going to 225? It's going to go in 5 times. Okay, and we can check it over here. 45 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry my 2. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 2 is 225. So my answer is negative 45. I'm going to create some space for us to do some more work. I'm going to erase these. Now we're going to move on to letter C. In letter C, I'm dividing a negative by a positive, so I know that my answer will be negative. So I'm going to do 36 into negative 216. My answer is going to be negative. I'm going to go ahead and indicate that. So how many times does 36 go into 216? I do believe it goes in 6 times. Let's double check over here on the side. 36 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36. Carry my 3. 3 times 6 is 18 plus 3 is 21. So it is 216. So my answer should be negative 6. And for letter D, we are dividing a positive number by a negative number, so I know that my answer will be negative. We're going to do 16 into, or negative 16, excuse me, into 1024. My answer is going to be negative. I'm going to indicate that already. So I need to know how many times does 16 go into 102? 16 should go into 102 about 5 times. Let's check it over here. I'm sorry, it should be about 6 times. 6 times 6 is 36. Carrying my 3. 6 plus 3 is 9. So that is 96. I'm not going to get any closer than 202 than 96. And when we subtract 96 from 102, we're going to get 6. And we bring down the 4. And 16 goes into 64 4 times. So my answer is negative 64. Okay, so we're going to make it a little bit more complex. We're going to try sample problem number 5, where we're going to be mixing together our multiplication and our division. Remember, we're going to redo these according to our order of operations. There is a separate lesson on order of operations if you need a reminder of how to do that. But we're going to go through it just briefly here. When it's not indicated otherwise, we just read left to right, doing the operations. But if we have parentheses that includes an operation, we should do that operation first, like in the case of letter C. In letter A, we're just going to go left to right. Okay, so we're going to do the first thing, which is multiply negative 12 to 140. They are both negative numbers, so that my answer is going to be positive. So I have to do 140 times 12. So this should give you 1,680. And then you're going to divide that by 8. So you do 8 into 1,680. 8 goes into 16 2 times. 8 goes into 8 1 time. And then 8 goes into 0 0 times. So my answer is 210. Okay. Again, I'm going to pull out my eraser to erase a few of these problems so that we have more space to do some writing. Okay, so in letter B, we're going to do the same as we did with letter A. We're going to just read it from left to right and do the operations accordingly. So we're going to do 128 divided by 4. So how many times does 4 go into 128? Well, 4 goes into 12 3 times, and then it goes into 8 2 times. So we just have 32. And then we're going to multiply 32 to negative 14. So a positive number times a negative number, which is going to give us a negative answer. So we're going to do 32 times negative 14. We're going to get a negative answer. So your answer should be negative 448. Okay, and then for letter C, we have parentheses, so we're going to do this operation in parentheses first. So the first thing we're going to do is divide 20 by a negative 10, right? They have matching zeros, so actually what I'm going to just do is get rid of those zeros, and just do 2 divided by negative 1, which is just going to give me negative 2. And so now I have negative 100 divided by negative 2. I have 2 negatives dividing each other, so my answer is going to be positive. So 100 divided by 2 is just 50. Okay, so those are all of your sample problems, and this concludes the notes for multiplying and dividing integers. Please be sure to review it if you have any questions.